We're in. Hey, folks, welcome to the podcast. So today I'm joined by the amazing Gavin Drake from Mindspan, who has done a few sessions with me and my team. He's a performance specialist, and he's really helped us to sort our mindset out, our thinking, how we think about situations, all of that cool stuff. And welcome, Gavin. Thanks for coming on.
Morning. Really nice to be here.
Thanks a lot. We were going to do a face-to-face live podcast, but the virus got in the way. So here we are virtually.
Yeah, we sort of talked about doing this for a while, and then we sort of got our act together, and the coronavirus kicked in, and you sometimes think things are going to conspire against you, but there's always a way, Lewis, isn't there?
100%, 100%. So whereabouts are you?
I'm sitting in my office at home in the wilds of Norfolk, in a small village called Ramerston. It's a little country lane with a dead end, so there's only about 4 or 5 properties down here, and we're joined by other neighbours like horses and cows and wildlife. So actually, it's strangely a really good place to be in the current circumstances.
Oh, definitely. That's beautiful. We have, we're in like urban Islington. We've got every house has a cat, and the cats are absolutely loving it. We've got some urban foxes,
Yeah.
and a concrete jungle to play in. So,
Well, like you've got cats everywhere. Pretty much everyone's got dogs around here, so it's really interesting already when you're allowed out for your single bit of fitness today, each day, walking the dog or whatever, or I go out and run with the dog. Dog walkers are being very diligent and staying at least 2 meters away from each other as they pass. So, yeah, there's a lot of.
It can't be too busy where you are.
Sorry?
It can't be too busy where you are in terms of
No.
people.
No, no. We don't get passing traffic. You only come down to where we live if you're visiting someone. So, yeah, most of the noise racket you need to put up with is birds singing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's fun, it's interesting actually, because I bumped into a few people in the street before the lockdown.
Yeah.
So probably beginning of the week, and we kept our distance, but quite a few were saying they're off to the countryside.
Yeah, I know.
So I was thinking like off to the countryside to spread the virus. It's quite interesting, like people's thinking on it.
Well, I think it's been really interesting, as someone who has an absolute fascination with psychology and its various subjects. It's just watching and observing people's behavior it's fascinating. And with newspaper headlines and some fake facts and stuff that get bandied around on social media, it's absolutely triggered the fear part of the brain, the more prehistoric part of the brain, which has driven some really interesting behavior. It's probably easing now, but the buying of multiple packs of toilet rolls and all that stuff in supermarkets, it's fight or flight, fear-based behavior.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Why can't people just think clearly? Just chill out a little bit. You're right. This fake news stuff. The things I think I'm really quite annoyed about at the moment is like you constantly get WhatsApps. My mate's mate works in a hospital, or my friend's sister's boyfriend's husband, or whatever it is, and then people just constantly sending this fake news around, and then everyone goes into this, like, to quote you, negative thinking spiral, and everything's like, crazy.
Yeah, it's been it is fascinating. I do sense, I'm not sure what it's like where you are, Lewis, but I certainly sense around these parts, the supermarkets, since things got a bit more strict earlier in the week from the government around lockdown type scenario. Yeah, the supermarkets aren't as crazy. There are, I do see some news reports where people are hanging out in rather large numbers and they shouldn't be, but I think it's definitely turning. There's almost a slightly more acceptance of the situation we're in from some people, and I think it's, without getting too technical about it, it is like people going through that traditional change curve, isn't it? This amazing set of circumstances, which was quite quick, really, for us, wasn't it? And I know we knew about China in December, but it's a long way away, so it's not impacting us really. Well, it certainly is now, and I think we're observing human response through a change curve, and there's an initial denial and anger, and then I think we're getting more acceptance. All right, this is how it is. And I think the government support, certainly the financial support, and I know there's still a few little loose ends around that with self-employed people, etc. I think that government support, or that pledge of support, is actually reassured quite a few people, because the stress and the anxiety that comes from having your life under threat, not literally, although that will be the case for a few people. Obviously, those at high risk. But I mean, life at threat, as in, can I pay my mortgage? Can I put food on the table? Am I going to lose my job? All those things that people say they work for suddenly became and probably still are under threat. But there's a little bit more reassurance about some of that stuff. So I think people then start to work through it.
Definitely. No, I remember what I was thinking, and this was only a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, when it all started. It kicked off, and then it started getting closer, and you're like, this could be real, right? And then you realize that as well as you might do financially, in life, whatever, you're never very far away from losing it all.
Yeah.
Just an event like this, or some bad luck or something, and then it goes home, to start. I mean, for me, I was thinking, right, how grateful I am for a bunch of things. And from your advice, I have this gratitude diary. I've been writing stuff, and for me now, the gratitude's even more important than ever. I wrote a post on LinkedIn yesterday on Anne Frank, right, and everyone's like, oh my God, we've got to stay in. I'm thinking, we have food delivery to our doorstep. We have on-demand entertainment from like a million different providers. I can move around my house. I can go to the shops and which are fully stocked. So there's so much to be grateful for. Yet people focus on, I can't go out, everything's really bad. So that was the thing. And also financially, obviously you're thinking, right, I pay my mortgage if we make bills for the whole year, or I really want to make sure my staff are okay. And see, all of these thoughts were going through my mind. And then a lot of people very early on, like a couple of weeks ago, I heard, friends got made redundant. Big coffee chains shut. I spoke to a guy who got made redundant over WhatsApp. The guy didn't even call it.
Wow.
Some really bad behavior. And on the brighter side, a lot of people have behaved so nicely and kindly to people, and they're doing all they can. And back to your point on the government, the scheme the Chancellor and the Prime Minister putting in, which was a German scheme back in 2008, support the workers, is great, and it takes a big weight off your mind.
Do you think in this challenging set of circumstances, because it is serious and it is challenging, although as we've tried to communicate through some posts on social media, it's there is still the wheels of life are still turning for most people. It's just a different life at the moment, and the majority of us will still be here in a few months. And so it isn't an absolute Armageddon in my view, but there's some big challenges to work through ultimately. But I think there'll actually be some good stuff can come out of this. And I think there will be a recalibration. People will recalibrate in certain ways. I think we may find that people do appreciate the simpler things a little bit more. Whether maybe the dial of materialism will be turned down a bit or a lot for people, because I think when we go through an experience like this, you get back to simplicity. None of us we're not really traveling much. We're not going out much. Sue and I, my wife and I, we're together, and you find some simple things to do. We might do a little bit around the house. I'm still doing a reasonable amount of video work with clients around coaching and one-to-one, and we've got a couple of larger clients who actually have some Mindspan training sessions in the calendar, and actually we're exploring just using video facilities to do video live sessions, and so you can still get quite a lot done. We just need to be innovative, creative, and about how we're living life and still doing stuff, achieving stuff, spending good time with people. Some friends of ours, and I'm sure we're not at the front of this curve because it must be happening elsewhere. We've been invited. They've invited us to a dinner party on Saturday remotely. So we're at this big video dinner party thing. I'm not sure which app we're using, but it's like, oh yeah, that'd be nice. So we've already got an invite to a dinner party. It's just we're quite astonishing creatures in terms of how we flex and adjust.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're so innovative. I
Yeah.
think I'm actually more social. I've been more social in the last 2 weeks than I have been in the last 2 years. I'm like of some really good friends of mine. You know, life gets in the way, right?
Mm.
Like you see people less often, or if you see someone once a quarter, that's regular.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes you just can't. You just I don't know. Like just don't you don't speak to your best mates all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last couple of weeks, I mean, we've been on it. We use House Party, which is one of these
I
apps
think
where,
the house is what we're using on Saturday. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. You know, like Lewis is in the house, and then someone like gets me to join their party, and you're like, hey, 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 and I've like
Yeah.
got like last week with all my friends from uni, we're all like speaking at 8:30 a.m.
Mm.
having a coffee. I can't remember the last time I spoke to my mates at 8:30 in the morning.
But that stuff's pretty much been there. Those resources have been there. We just aren't using them. But now we are looking at using them more because, our getting together face to face is much less easy at the moment. So yeah, it's astonishing. And I don't know exactly what will come out of this, but I do think that aside of the challenge, and I do realise it's serious, and there is major challenges, particularly for some people more than others, but all of us in terms of life being turned upside down a little bit. I think there will be some good come out of this in terms of some
Yeah.
aspects of recalibrating socially, morally, values, all that sort of stuff. I think, Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do any? Would you do anything different when this is over, based on like the last couple of weeks? Like, is any little things that you would now implement? And I know you do a lot of cool things with your diaries,
Mm,
success,
mm,
gratitude.
mm. Um, as you know, I absolutely love the work I do. So for me, I've never, with having my own business for 22 years, training and coaching the mental side of performance in across multiple sectors. So commercial sector, public sector, sometimes in schools, sometimes with charities, uh, a lot in professional sport and football and stuff as well too. But I love all of that, and it's a key part of my purpose in life. So I'm not in that. I've never been in that place where I want to just have a business, make it successful, sell it, and go and retire. I think, and you never fully know, I think I'll want to do this type of work or an element of it right through to whenever my days end, because it's such a
Yeah,
key purpose and part of my life, and it's very fulfilling. So I don't think that will change, but I think, well, actually, we're starting to explore it already. Actually, in response to your question, we're starting to explore the digital space and how we can use that way better to
yeah,
impact more people positively.
yeah,
I've shared with you before that our vision as an organization is to positively impact 10 million people with our Mindspan principles and philosophies. And I've known intellectually for ages, we should use the digital space more. We should use the digital space more. We need to get around to doing that. But we're so busy face to face with people, enjoying ourselves, we haven't.
yeah.
Actually, we are now. And I've had meetings already via video, and I've got some more stuff planned next week. I was talking to an organization that can help us create a version of our core Mindspan program online as part of an e-learning setup. So I guess that a lot of that will be changing. We'll be doing a lot more of that sort of work, and that's really been triggered, and we've been heavily nudged in that direction because of the situation we're in, which is fabulous.
It's amazing. Yeah, same for me actually. It's funny. Like even with this podcast, I was like, only want to
Are we
podcast with
doing a,
people.
are
What's that?
we doing a podcast?
Well, I think we were doing a podcast. I forgot to.
We are chatting to you.
It was like a chat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I only like the podcast is only it's but you got to come into the office because
Mm,
I love the discipline or that, like of like I ask a question you got to respond and vice
yeah.
versa, like good mental practice and stuff. But now with Hangouts, Zoom, and whatever people use, or we use Hangouts because it's quite cool to record on.
Yeah.
I've opened it up to the world now.
Yeah.
I've got an
Mm,
amazing lady coming on who runs a huge pharmaceuticals company making stuff
mm,
for the corona. I mean, again, all like really different people, and the feedback's been great. And even just yeah, with candidates, clients. I mean, it just you're able to use it more.
mm,
What my kind of weird thought popped into my head last night was, everyone's been talking about sustainability and saving the planet, right? And all of
yeah.
these conferences and everything, but nothing has ever got done. It feels just now like the planet has just said, do you know what, guys? You go wait in your room.
Yeah.
Um, like this virus is my antibody to
Yeah.
combat the human kind of plague in inverted commas. And then to top it all off, let's make it really sunny while you're at home as well, just to
Indeed. Yeah.
the wind. And I'm gonna recover myself. And it just feels like, the pollution's gone down,
No.
no people travel with the planes, less cars on the road. It's just a funny, just a funny thought I popped
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I like your analogy there, Lewis. It is a bit like nature has said, right, human race, go to your room and think about your behavior and only come out when you've really thought about it. Yeah, it's sort of what's happening, isn't it?
I wonder if we'll learn or whether we'll go back just to, it's interesting, like we were talking about what we've learned and what we think it's important. Are we really, or are we just going to forget what we've learned and just dive straight back into the normal, routine, or the bad practices we're doing or whatever? That would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, well, and that it does link to sort of certain stuff that we, as a training and coaching organization specializing in the things that we do, things that we do seek to challenge people with. As you well know, we talk a lot on some of our core programs around, that sort of sense. A lot of people have that sense they're sort of or feeling on a hamster wheel. They get up in the morning, it's busy, busy, busy. They're rushing here, they're going there. Day's gone, then tomorrow they do the same stuff. And we are incredible creatures of repetition. Incredible. The brain's a very habitual mechanism, as we call it. And you don't need to repeat something that often before it actually becomes quite ingrained and it moves from the conscious to the subconscious and it becomes a way of being. I think this current set of circumstances is really challenging those habits, and people initially miss them, don't they? That's why people still keep getting on the tube a bit too much and gathering together when they, it's just deeply ingrained life habits and human behavior. So a lot of that's being challenged, and people are needing to consciously think differently, so they feel differently, so they behave differently in line with the demands and recommendations of government and scientists, which is perfectly appropriate. One consideration will be how long this goes on for. I think how long. The longer it goes on, and there's I don't want it to go on for too long, but personally, the longer it goes on, the more we'll ingrain some new habits. I think that there will evidently be a return to some stuff that we were doing, but that's when I talk about a recalibration. I really, really hope there is a recalibration in lots of senses. To stop rushing around so much. Let's stop filling our days with stuff that really doesn't contribute to the lives that we say we want. The amount of people we work with that say they want X, Y, or Z in life, and yet, if I from a slight distance look at how they're thinking and how they're feeling and what they're doing every day, that's in real conflict with what they say they want. How many people will tell you they want to be happy in life, and yet they create ways of thinking and the ways of thinking that create so much stress. But most people's perception is it's external factors that create how we feel. And obviously, you'll know, because of the work that we've done together, we significantly challenge that in as much as it isn't external factors that create how we feel. It's our perception of external factors that create how we feel. It's the way we think. It's the meaning we attach to things. It's the perception we have of things. And the interesting thing is, the more habitual your mental response and emotional response becomes, then the more that becomes a reaction to everything around you rather than what we call a well thought through response. And I think that's some of what you said a little while ago, is more people are needing to think more consciously about what we're doing and what they are doing to start adjusting their behaviors. And that's coming already. Yeah. Kindness that's now, and I know people are posting a lot more on social media, but the amount of kindness that's being created and evolving around us in society, I just think is awesome. It's fabulous.
I think it's amazing. It's like for the first time in a while that everyone in the world is going through the same experience. It's quite a weird thing to think about, right? And I hope that this shared experience brings everyone together, because I think, and I wasn't alive at this time, but they say that the happiness levels in Britain during like the Blitz and stuff were really high, because everyone had a purpose. It was very social. The British just dusted themselves off and carried on. It'd be interesting to see if like the society gets more kind of joined up because we've all gone through this same experience together. That'd be
I think what lots of people realize consciously a bit, but certainly at a deeper level is that, you know, how much do we have in our media at the minute and around us in social media and more informal media? How much do we have discussion about religious differences at the minute? How much do we have discussions about political differences at the minute? How much discussion are we having about racial difference at the minute? I'm not seeing it much at all. Why? Because I think everyone realizes, oh yeah, there's something a bit more important to think about. Yeah. Does that make sense? So
yeah. How can we shut off though? Like, because I see a lot of people, they're getting negative, right? They're going down this negative spiral because they're reading the news, because they're thinking about coronavirus, because they're scared of getting it. How are you dealing with kind of shutting that out almost, or taking it on board but not letting it affect your day, your week?
We're in a little campaign within Mindspan of, you know, hopefully there's so much stuff out there, isn't there? Certainly on social media, in the digital space, there is so much information and a heck of a lot of white noise, and in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, quite a lot of nonsense and etc. But you know, I guess we join in with that a little bit because we're trying to put some sense out, you know, send some sense out there and some hints and tips and stuff. And in line with that, we've got one or two big clients that have engaged us during this time, in additionally to any training or coaching we might be doing, just to, you know, be able to provide tips and hints and small prompts for people's thinking and behavior throughout this. And I've also been invited to be involved in something that kicks off on April 1st. I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but it's essentially going to be, as far as I can remember, hashtag CoFight19.
CoFight19.
Yeah, hashtag CoFight19 kicks off on 1st of April for 19 days. I think at the minute there is some interest from one or two national newspapers in this little 19-day program, and from BBC 5 Live and stuff. And it's really being driven by a guy called Nick Dyson, who works in the educational sector. And I met Nick a long time ago. And he's sort of seen an opportunity to sort of provide some sense, put some sense out there, particularly from an educational perspective. So schools are closed. So there's going to be 19 days of hints, tips, thoughts, activities for kids that are off school, parents who are with those kids, for teachers. A lot of what will be provided over those 90 days will be good for anybody, really, but it's specifically geared towards those. And we've been invited we've been invited to contribute, you know, a daily thought,
Amazing.
And stuff like that. So, yeah, point being, coming back to your question, what can we do? Well, there's actually a lot we can do. And, you know, one of those tips and hints, and it's not unique to us, I've heard it from other people as well, is, you know, the habit of picking up your phone every 5 minutes just to check it. It's not even buzzed, it's not flashed, it's not anything like that. It's not an audible sound. It's just pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. And whether that's checking Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you know, no wonder we get to the end of a day and our brains feel a bit frazzled, and you feel a bit overloaded and a bit overwhelmed, and the fear, you know, the fight or flight response has kicked in from the brain, the more prehistoric brain, because look at what you've exposed yourself to every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 50 minutes throughout your waking hours. So
yeah.
The irony is we're putting some of this stuff out via social media, but one of the recommendations we're giving is, look, just stop it. Please stop. Be consciously, you know, we need to be more conscious through this process. Be consciously selective about where you get your information from. Now, for me, I'm not excluding all of social media, but I'm not actually looking at it that much. I just go to Boris and his crew around about 5 o'clock most days, just to get something from the horse, supposedly from the horse's mouth. Scientific reinforcement there. I think he's got some high caliber people working with him, and that's really what I need to know. And of course, when you do bump into when you bump into people 2 meters apart, if that makes sense, as you go about your day, and it's obviously happening less, or we're doing this sort of stuff, of course we're going to talk about it. But how do we talk about it? You know, are we telling each other how terrible everything is? Are we just focusing on and talking about this terrible behavior, that terrible behavior? Because that's mostly what you're going to get in the press, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mostly what you're going to get in the press is photographs of people still hanging out together and they shouldn't be, the crowded tube trains in London, you know, terrible social behavior here, terrible social behavior here, our rights are being challenged. Well, okay, that might be some people's perception. What's a constructive alternative view? What are we talking? Because what we're talking about is what we're thinking about. And
Yes.
remember, the more we think about something a particular way, that more that moves from the conscious to the subconscious and becomes a way of being. And I don't want my way of being through this challenging phase to be one of absolute fear, to have fear-based behaviors, to be like a meerkat on alert every second of every day. Now, I need a little bit of that to stay alive, but actually, I could also do some stuff in this period. I could create some things. I could achieve some things. You and I can still do this. We can be constructive about information we're putting out there. I don't mean pink, fluffy, and delusional. We can be constructive, and I can maybe even amongst all of this, we've had some work cancelled or postponed, even though we've got some other work coming in. I might get a couple of rooms decorated and think, great job. I got some trellis put up on my garden fence yesterday, which I've been thinking about doing for ages. It's a nice thing to do. Sue and I can have chats about stuff that we maybe haven't chatted about for a while. I can still contact my son in Saudi Arabia because that's where he lives and works, and we can do this. So, as you said, we can make more, I wouldn't say make more efforts, it's not the right word. We can more consciously be contacting each other and, having a cup of coffee whilst we do it. Do you know what I mean? Don't have to.
Absolutely.
We don't have to literally lock ourselves down, shut the bedroom door, and it feel a bit too much like the Blitz reference to earlier. That was we haven't got bombers flying overhead dropping things on us. So I think our national psychology, for want of a better term at the minute, is evolving, and it's really crucial.
100%. Because back to that wartime analogy, a lot of people I speak to feel like that's it. Like they feel like they're under. I drove. My wife works in hospital, and I drove her there today. And the amount of people we saw with masks on in their cars, and it just feeds their whole psychology about it. Everyone, but most people you speak to are so scared of it. I mean, to be honest, I don't getting the virus is the least of my worries. I think the least thing I'm concerned about. Like the economic impact, the effect of people's lives, jobs, and the longevity of that. But yeah, the spectral social media thing, it's really difficult. I mean, personally, I get distracted by the fridge when I'm at home all the time. Like it's so hard not to, the fridge. Like it's so hard not to look in the fridge to see what I can eat. I mean, in my mind, it's like, why do I keep looking at that fridge?
Yeah.
And I've had to put things in my mind now to say, right, I can only look at the fridge between like 12:30 and 1:30, or I want to be only in the kitchen if I'm going to eat something. So in my office, I've got my sparkling water.
Yeah.
I've got my coffee. With my social media, I've got a little motto: I post and run.
Yeah.
So the problem with social media for me, and I think most others, is you post and you look like how many people have liked it, how many people have like, oh no, only like 10 people, or 12. So I post and run. So I'll look at it again in like a few hours or something, and I'm making a conscious effort to reply to everyone that comments. If someone takes the time to comment, I comment. And then the big thing for me at the moment is everyone's getting in touch. I've got and I will get back to everyone if I haven't got back to you yet. But I've got like thousands of LinkedIn messages and emails from people that are concerned about their job or want some advice or stuff like that. So I'm trying to do that, but I'm just just doing positive things.
Yeah, and I think that's a. But I think that's fabulous, Lewis. But it's a more conscious thing, isn't it? You are more consciously seeking to, the fridge example is a wonderful example because I guess we've all had those. This is how things become ingrained and very habitual, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally. If you've ever, I'm sure some of the listeners will recognise this. If you've ever moved, say, your kitchen bin from one side of the kitchen to the other for a few days, your subconscious keeps taking you over to where the bin used to be, doesn't it? Or you change where a light switch is and you walk into a room, the light switch isn't there anymore, we moved that. They're just humorous day-to-day examples of the very habitual nature of how we function. And absolutely, for some reason you keep meandering to the fridge, but it's not your conscious mind doing that. You don't stand at one side of the kitchen and consciously say to yourself, I think I'm going to the fridge. You just find yourself in the fridge because it's your subconscious doing it. So your conscious mind needs to start to challenge that subconscious habit. But the proof is, the more you consciously work at it, the more you create a new habit. And yeah, the social media, picking up your phone every 5 minutes thing, yeah, that's just deeply rooted in lots of people's subconscious. And the more they do it, the more they'll do it.
The other thing also, I feel like Brexit wasn't a great preparation for Corona, because again, remember, no one's mentioned Brexit for ages apart from me just now. A lot of people were really negative as well. You know, it's going to be the worst thing ever, and it was the same scenario. Unless you were a lever and thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to their view. But again, it's the same. It's like everyone was moaning about it. Everyone was moaning about it, and then it felt great in the beginning of January, and now everyone's moaning about the corona, and that's going to finish you too, and then into something else. So you're right. It's like, it's programming yourself to be like, do you know what? Things happen, and you know, I can choose how I deal with it. You know, no one else can. I can, and I want to be the most positive, productive person I can be.
Yeah, and I think the slant I'd have on that, Lewis, is absolutely, I'm in line with you there. That's partially what we teach. But it's not, for me, it's not about being, and the phrase I often use is pink, fluffy, and delusional. You know, difficult things happen. We do face challenges. You know, we will, all of us in our lives will face some tragedy and trauma at different times. We'll lose people we're close to and stuff like that. So it's not trying to paint a pink, fluffy view of life and the world. Difficult stuff happens, and there's a big worldwide, fairly difficult thing going on at the minute.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be negative, destructive, and moany, whingy, bitchy, complaining about it every day. We can say, okay, it's out of my control. What can I do? And that's a huge part of, you know, my own philosophies is around this, creating an internal locus of control. So most of what goes on outside of me in life and in the world, I don't have full control over. I might have a degree of influence, but not full control. So rather than keep banging on about my lack of control and banging on about what the world, I perceive the world is doing to me, and banging on about, you know, we call that just moaning, whinging, bitching, and complaining. Why don't I actually turn the mirror around? So stop getting the world to look in the mirror, turn it around, look at myself, and think, okay, I'm not in full control of that, but what can I do? What can I be in control of? And what I can be in control of is, you know, how I choose to think about things, how I work at feeling about things, and the actions and decisions and choices I make every single day. And I have that at my disposal every second of every day, and so does everybody else. Most people just don't realize it. So you know, a lot of the fear-based response and the sense of overwhelm that people have been experiencing in the last week or two, I absolutely fully get it. Has been, you know, massively influenced, I think, by newspaper headlines and less than helpful information out in the big digital space, which makes it increasingly challenging to weave your way through all of that and get to real good quality, meaningful information and advice. But a lot of that is around, you know, this feeling, this external locus of control about the world doing to me. Well, no one ever said life was going to be fair.
No.
I feel like I'm getting my soapbox, Lewis. No one ever said life was going to be fair. That's not cast in stone everywhere. And guess what? Sometimes it doesn't feel fair. But what are you going to do? And that's the question I keep saying to people at the minute. Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to, what's your decision? What's your choice? What's your behaviour? What are you going to do? And, you know, we are, to varying degrees, not all of us, but some of us are going to whether you call it a bit more downtime or we're going to be spending more time at home. Great. Okay, what are you going to do then? How can you make the most of that? How can you further enhance your relationships? How can you get the board games out that you haven't played for 10 years with your kids or your family? What's that hobby you've been talking about getting around to for ages and not done? You know, do you want to start cooking? Do you want to start baking? Do you want to start learning a language? Pick up your guitar, whatever.
Yeah.
Or you spend your time sitting in a corner, being really angry, really uptight, whinging about the world and how unfair everything is. It isn't great. It is serious. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. For those people that are in that cave right now, is there like kind of three things or whatever that they can do to just start to move from, you know, that victim language to?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, you know, as you'd expect this to be one of my answers. It sounds a bit deep and meaningful, but one of the things we like to share with people is think about how you think. If that makes sense. And you know, and because it's a core model that we tend to share, and it's driven from the field of CBT, but also other areas of psychology, including sports psychology. You know, at any one moment in time, how we think about something, a person, a situation, or a set of circumstances, or an event, essentially creates how we feel about that thing. Some sort of emotional cocktail response, and then that emotional cocktail response or those feelings then drive usually how we react or respond to that thing, person, or situation. So, and all of that leads to some sort of outcome. So, if we don't like the outcomes we are experiencing, most people, they will tend to blame that on the world. Well, actually, we're not in control of the world, but can I think differently in that situation, to feel differently, to behave differently, to create a different outcome, or stand a chance of creating a different outcome? That then starts to foster more of what we call an internal locus of control. We start to, rather than trying to control things we don't have control of, like the world outside of us, we start to get more of a control of the one person we do have more ability to control, if that makes sense, which is us.
Yeah.
Some people try and do that by changing behavior, but you can't really long-term change behavior until you change mind, your
Yeah.
thoughts, or your perception, if that makes sense. So in that sense, just explaining that's a key recommendation, is just start to think about how you think. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Don't overanalyze it. Don't sit in a corner and stare at your belly button and overanalyze all your thoughts. It's just almost step outside yourself. What am I doing mentally and emotionally at the minute? Is this helping me or isn't it helping me? So I think there's some stuff there. Certainly in this current set of circumstances, and this is advice and encouragement that would come from lots of different places. Move.
Yeah, definitely.
We shouldn't be as sedentary as we are in life anyway, but particularly at the minute, because that's good for us. That's good for us. There's certain feedback that goes. Your brain needs to get you up anyway. You have to have a signal from the brain, but actually when you start moving, there's all sorts of signals go back to the brain as well too, and that influences the chemicals that are getting produced. So make the most of that one fitness event or opportunity you have each day, whether that's me I shall go and run with Maisie the dog later this afternoon. And she's a lovely example of exuberance for life. She will just get so much. She's not thinking about coronavirus, quite obviously, or Brexit, just being a dog. And maybe we could be a bit more dog sometimes. So I think move. So think about your thoughts without overanalyzing them. Get a grip of them if you can. Particularly if you're starting to slip into a negative spiral and seek to change it. Move. And connect. Even as difficult as it or more challenging, just try and connect with people. Particularly because we have social
people. Connect with positive people. Choose to connect
with. Yeah. Be careful who you connect with. Absolutely. But I think again, if you are connecting with certain people, because it could be family members, you want to make sure they're okay, or friends, and they do start to go off on one. Now, part of that is if it's on their chest, it's quite good of them to get it off their chest. But if they just keep doing it, maybe you can have some constructive influence around helping them change their mindset, because the more we keep going over the same negative thing over and over again, the more life you give it, the bigger it gets. Actually, the more you reinforce it, and the more you'll be talking about it again this afternoon. I want to spend time talking about, as you said, what am I grateful for? Is this an opportunity? Does this actually create opportunity for us in a business sense, in a personal sense, in a relationship sense, in terms of my health, my fitness, potentially, if I think appropriately to make that happen?
Yeah, definitely.
A bit of a woolly three. I'm sorry, there's a bit of a woolly three things there, but yeah.
What a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much. And it's also such beautiful sunshine. So go out for your one walk a day or run a day until Boris locks us down further, because no one's adhering to the social distancing.
Indeed. Lewis, it's a pleasure. Lovely to chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And stay safe, stay strong, stay positive, stay healthy, all of that good stuff.